Welcome to College Factory's first test prep workshop. I hope that whoever you are, wherever you're watching from, and whenever you're watching, that you enjoy the workshop or that you gain something from it. So, in today's workshop, we're going to be covering just a few basic concepts. First, we're going to be looking at why you choose between the SAT and ACT and pick one of the two exams to focus on. Then we're going to work on or look into how that choosing process works. And we're going to wrap up with goal setting and what that looks like in the context of the SAT and ACT. Now, both of these components of test prep are going to fall into that first stage where you're just trying to make sure that you get your test prep off to a good start so that you don't find yourself halfway through and asking yourself what your goal is, why you're even doing this, and what your plan is. So you want to make sure that you start everything off on the right foot, and that's going to make sure that your test prep is as seamless and as productive as possible, to make sure that you're not wasting time where you don't need to be. Okay, so I'm going to start with why you're choosing between the SAT and ACT. Okay, well, you're choosing between them because it's not an efficient use of time to take both exams. Trust me, I know, I did it. I should have spent time doing things other than testing, but instead I took both exams and, worked out okay for me, but I wouldn't suggest it. At the same time, you don't want to just randomly pick one of the tests and hope that it goes well, because every person has their own individual strengths and weaknesses, and you want to make sure that you're picking the test that's most suited to you and that you're going to have the best chance of having success with. So that's why you want to just pick one of the exams and dedicate your effort to that exam as you're preparing for it. Now, the best way to determine which exam is going to be better for you is to take a diagnostic test for both. And this is the most effective strategy of figuring out which exam just kind of feels more comfortable for you. Because it's hard to compare between the two when you haven't taken both of them. Now, you might be thinking, well, didn't you just say, you want to save time by not taking both, and now you want me to take a diagnostic test for both? Well, I understand that, that makes sense. But this is going to save you time in the long run. It's going to give you peace of mind that you picked the right test. Now, if you just randomly select one of the tests, again, you might find yourself partway through the test prep process thinking, okay, maybe what if I selected another test? Maybe this whole process would have been easier, and you don't want to be second guessing yourself as you prepare for the test. You want to be confident that you picked the right test. So that's why I suggest, the best way of really getting a sense of what each exam is like, and from there being able to pick which exam you think is going to be better for you. And, the best way to do that is to just take a diagnostic exam for each of the exams. Now, if you don't have time for that, which, I know that's a possibility, there are other ways that you can try to go about this process. For example, there are some quizzes and exams online that you can kind of just look at some basic questions like, okay, this Magoosh quiz where it says, which exam is best for you, SAT or ACT? Gonna go in here, right? You can do something like this, and okay, there's like 14 questions, and you answer all of these questions, and at the end, it tells you, okay, I think ACT might be better for you, or SAT might be better for you. And this is, this is a way to kind of do that process a little bit more quickly if you don't have time to take those diagnostic exams. But you want to get the best idea of which exam is going to be better for you. You should take a diagnostic exam, or at the very least, do some practice questions from SAT official materials and ACT official materials, or practice materials, to get a better sense of what the two exams might be like. So we're actually going to do a little short version of this whole asking or answering basic questions about the test right here during our workshop. So what I want you to do is get a piece of paper and a pencil, or open the notes on your phone, or enter 1 through 10 in wherever else, whatever you want to do, wherever you want to keep this. That's number 1 through 10. And then I want you to look at each of these statements. So for example, you panic when faced with time limits. Do you agree? Write yes. Do you disagree? Write no. And yeah, just go ahead and pause the video, number 1 through 10, and write yes or no next to each of the statements, depending on whether you agree or disagree with them. Okay. So hopefully you've done that, and now let's see what this means for us. So if you agreed with the first statement, maybe the SAT is a little bit better for you, because the ACT does tend to be a little bit more restrictive in terms of timing. So if you panic when you're faced with time limits, the SAT is a little bit more forgiving with timing. You get a little bit more time per question, and maybe you'll find that the SAT is better for you. So I want you to just take a look at which exam you have the most yeses for, and which exam you have less yeses for, and maybe the one that you have more yeses for, you'll find is going to play more to your strengths as a test taker. At the same time, I don't want you to look at a disagreement as meaning that the other test is better for you. For example, let's say you answered no to the first statement, that you don't panic when faced with time limits. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that the ACT is going to be better for you. You're probably just going to be fine with either exam, and you don't really need to consider this factor. So, consider each of the statements, consider your answers, and from there you can kind of determine, get some basic idea of what each exam is going to be like. Now, once you're done with that step, that first step in your test prep, which is deciding which exam to take, you can start working on goal setting. This is going to be the second step, goal setting. And this is very important. Now, the reason why you want to set a goal score is that it'll give you a clear goal, something you're working towards, where you can gauge your progress partway through and think, okay, I'm making good progress towards this goal. I'm feeling good about how this is going. And then that's going to make it easier to continue working as you see yourself progressing and see that gap closing as you get closer and closer to your goal score. So that's why you want to set a goal score. Now, what does this goal setting look like in the context of the SAT or the ACT? Well, the first question you want to ask yourself is, where do you want to apply? What colleges do you want to go to, or what's your dream college? Okay. And what score do you need to be competitive as an applicant just to get into the college? But there's also other components to this. What kind of score do you need to be competitive in order to get to maybe a special program within a college, like an honors program or some other program with special distinction? Or what kind of score do you need to be competitive to get some scholarships if you need additional financial aid outside of what the college is going to give you just based on your need? So you need to be considering all of those factors when you look at the goal score that you want to get. Now, once you've determined what that final target score is going to be, you want to figure out where you're starting. So you go back to step 1. If you took the time to take a diagnostic test for both the SAT and the ACT, then you can just use diagnostic score for whichever exam you selected, and that would be your starting point. Now, if you didn't take a diagnostic exam for each of the SAT and ACT, you'll need to take a diagnostic exam for whichever exam you ended up picking. And then you can use that as your starting point. From there, you're just going to do some simple math. You're going to subtract your goal score. You're going to subtract your starting score from your goal score. So let's say your goal score on the ACT is a 28 out of 36, and your starting score is a 24 out of 36. Then you need to improve by 4 points, which is a decent amount of improvement. It's 1 point on each of the 4 sections on average. So then you need to think about, okay, well, I need to improve by this much. And then in this question of how much do I need to improve to be competitive, in our case, hypothetical case, 4 points, you need to think, okay, well, how much time do I think I'm going to need to put into my test prep in order to get that goal score? And from there, you need to think about your other commitments, your music, your volunteering, your sports, your social life, your making sure you're staying healthy with sleep or physical activity or whatever else it is. You need to think about, okay, what are my time commitments and how much time realistically can I put towards test prep on a daily basis or on a weekly basis? And how much time is it going to take me to get to that goal score? And then based on that, you can get yourself a goal test date. Or if you already have a test date, you can think about how much time do I need to be spending on a daily or weekly basis to get to this goal score with my test date in mind, at which point you might have to reevaluate your test plan. If you only have 1 month to study for your exam and you're going to need to study for 60 hours to get to there, then that's like 15 hours a week, which is more than 2 hours of test prep a day, and you just might not have that kind of time, and so you might want to move your test date at that point. So hopefully this has made sense and you've got an idea of why you want to set a goal score, how you go about setting that goal score. But I know it is a very confusing process, which is why we are here. College Factory. We're going to have a test prep program, and we're going to have various different lengths of programs. So far we have a 4-week, an 8-week, and a 12-week program that you can select based on your own test prep timeline. And I'm sure you could work with our coaches to change the lengths of these as you need. Like if you want to get it done in 3 weeks, or if you have 6 weeks but you don't have 8 weeks, you can work on that with your coaches. You can work on goal setting. You can work on content or pacing, or just finding what kind of schools you need to or what kind of scores you need, to be competitive, where you want to apply to for college or for the scholarships that you want to apply to. And yeah, we're here to help for SAT and ACT, however you need. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to me at this email, akash@collegefactory.org, and I and my team are more than willing to help you out. All right, see you in the next one.